Honorable Men Discord, American Scandal, Dr. Fauci. Let's talk about it.
How you see yourself is how you perceived. I see a man strong, gifted, head strapping, never down on his knees, begging. Gotta make a way, even in my darkest hour. Say the odds against me was new. I would never cower.
As always, welcome back to another episode. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Tell a friend and tell a friend I drop episodes daily at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Let's get straight into it. I have quite a few things queued up. This may be a lengthy episode. I'll try to get through this without it being painful to watch for those of you that are not into politics. But this is not even so much about politics. It's also about we the people. We the people who our voices are oftentimes never heard. And when it is heard, things that we request, things that we demand are never really carried out, because it really is a matter of those in power versus those who don't have power. Now, I'm going to play these things and then I'm going to conclude with my thoughts on this. But let me just be clear. This is about a Senate hearing that was held. I wanted to say it was on Wednesday. It's a Senate committee after Dr. Fauci received a subpoena by Senator Rand Paul. All right, so Senator Rand Paul is spearheading this whole political theater, as many are saying that it is, which I agree, it is political theater. I don't have the video queued up. There was one politician who actually cursed during this whole hearing, and I thought that was very interesting that he chose to curse, because it just shows that, many of those that are holding seats that are supposed to be seats, respectable seats, are not showing any type of professionalism whilst holding those seats. But that's another story. I'm going to go through the first few things, and then I'm going to speak periodically throughout. So let's get into it.
Pains me to do so because of the respect I have for the legislative branch of government and my decades-long record of cooperating with Congress. Under the advice of my attorneys, I will invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution to refrain from answering your questions. Thank you.
Dr. Fauci, can you just turn around and look at the people behind you? You're not willing to do that? Look at the people who were absolutely shamed for saying what we know now to be the truth. You can't even look at them?
Although it pains me to do so.
All right, for those of you that don't know who Dr. Fauci is, he is the doctor who was at the head of making, I want to say, national decisions as far as the public's health during COVID. Now, during that time, President Trump was in office. During that time, President Trump didn't necessarily agree with Dr. Fauci's views and certain things that he wanted to implement in terms of protection against the virus. But this entire episode has so many layers, because I did not know Dr. Fauci had a diary. That is what came under question also during this hearing, because there was several pages within that diary. I think it was over 111 pages, if I'm not mistaken. But then I saw in other spaces that there's actually more pages than that on a separate book. But let's just stick with the 111 pages. Dr. Fauci's being, he's under fire for his position on certain things that he said publicly, that within his diary, he said the opposite. So he's under fire for that reason. That's part of the reason why he's under fire. He's also under fire because, again, during COVID, when he served under the Trump administration, President Trump didn't necessarily agree with some of his viewpoints. And some of his viewpoints weighed heavy on the overall respective states and their decision making, because, as you know, the states make the ultimate decision statewide on how they want to handle the outbreak, right? And with him pleading the fifth, this is somewhat controversial, because some people are looking at it like as though he doesn't want to take accountability for some of the decisions that he encouraged. All right.
is it today?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color tie are you wearing?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color's the carpet in front of you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Let's just get one thing straight. You don't have any rights under the Fifth Amendment because you've been pardoned, as you very well know. As the Supreme Court has been clear for a century and more, Brown versus Walker, 1896, when he has been pardoned, he may not stand upon his privilege. You know that. Your lawyer is sitting behind you now, shifting nervously in their chairs. They know it. This isn't about the Constitution. This isn't about the law. This is about contempt. Contempt for this body and contempt for the American people. What day of the week is it today?
If you see above me, it says, the person says, this person, Kathy, she says, pleading the fifth for what day it is today, he is guilty. Is he guilty for pleading the fifth on what day it is? I think he just wants to be consistent with not taking part in this hearing. And he has that right. Now, whether or not you agree with that right, that's up to you. I'm not even here to say I agree with that right. But what I do want you all to notice in this episode is politics, right? Politics on how you could navigate yourself through hearings, how you can navigate yourself through court. Man-made politics that on some occasions it's fair play and on other occasions it's not fair play based on man's view and perspective. And why am I wording it that way? I'm wording it that way because corruption is the fabric of the United States. I don't care what side of the fence you're on. I don't care if you're Republican or Democratic or a Democrat. And I say that to say this. I believe both parties are capable of being just and fair. And I think both parties are also capable of being unjust and unfair. And you might be saying, well, where are you going with this? Where I'm going with this is that too often times we put our trust. This is a matter of trust. All of this is a matter of trust. We put our trust in other human beings because they wear a suit or because they're clean shaven or because they verbalize that they should be trusted. But just know in all aspects of life, in all fields, no matter where you work, whether it's in science, whether it's in government, whether it's in whether it's blue collar, white collar, anything that's comprised of human beings is going to be flawed. And honestly, this whole thing to me is a bunch of BS. I really think that is Fauci guilty of some things? Yes, but is Fauci the only one to be blamed? Absolutely not, which is why I think this is all BS. I see this as an attack on Fauci for things that he may have known that he didn't allow the American people to know. But he's not alone in this. That's why I think this is BS. Now, had it been something where they held this hearing to question Fauci along with other members of his administration at the time, then I would look at it as a little bit more. I would take it more serious than this. And if there was scandal, which some people are saying there was scandal, he's not alone in the scandal. He's not alone in the scandal, which is why I call BS on all of this.
6-foot social distancing. We can't ignore that. Where you get that from? He later admitted that it wasn't backed by science. He's just coming up with this stuff. The lockdowns, the natural immunities, the vaccine's ability to prevent infection and transmission, Fauci's pulmonary infarction following vaccination that he didn't reveal to the public, but he wrote about it in his diary. This is all shady shit. It is. And the Democrats have nothing to say. Wasn't it the Democrats that was enforcing stuff? People lost their jobs. Businesses went out of business. Folks' quality of life was severely compromised. And we had reached a point in our society where if you even questioned Fauci, as opposed to celebrate him, you were in trouble. Man was appearing on shows. I would know. First Take on ESPN, my show, was one of the shows he appeared on. Listen to Dr. Fauci here talking to yours truly at the time in 2021, March 11th, 2021, to be exact. Listen.
When you say normal, Dr. Fauci, specifically what does that mean? Because even when I just took my shot the other day, they still said, we're still encouraging you to wear a mask. Even if you take your second shot, we're still encouraging you to wear a mask and things of that nature. So when you say normal, can you be specific about what you believe close to normal entails?
Well, what it's going to be is going to be really depending upon where you are and what the level of infection is. So if it's completely normal, that means that you could get on a plane and go to anywhere in the world and not worry about anything and not wear a mask. I don't think that's going to be that way for quite a while. In the United States, approaching normal, where we'll have gradual withdrawal of the need to get to be wearing masks, I think we'll be wearing masks longer than what we would consider normal. It will be, as Max said, kind of a new normal, where we'll be wearing masks under certain circumstances when you're out in the community and not a high percentage of people are vaccinated. If we can get the overwhelming proportion of the population vaccinated and the level of infection, namely test positivity, is very, very low, then we can start talking about going back from wearing masks. But right now, even though we're doing well, the baseline of but the baseline of infections every day is between 50 and 60,000.
How about the 6-foot social distancing? We can't ignore that. Where you get that from? He later admitted that it wasn't backed by science. You're just coming up with this stuff. The lockdowns, the natural immunities, the vaccine's ability to prevent infection and transmission, Fauci's pulmonary infarction following vaccination that he didn't reveal to the public, but he wrote about it in his diary. This is all shady shit. It is. And the Democrats have nothing to say. Wasn't it the Democrats that was enforcing stuff? People lost their jobs. Businesses went out of business. Folks' quality of life was severely compromised. And we had reached a point in our society where if you even questioned Fauci, as opposed to celebrate him.
All right, I had to edit that because it repeated itself. But let's go into this next video.
Dr. Fauci's diary was released this week, and in it he talks about the origins of the COVID pandemic, but also his growing fame during that time period. The diary was released as part of an investigation that Senator Rand Paul is doing into the origins of COVID. Now, the entries are about 1,000 pages long, and they range from 2019 to 2022, so really the height of the pandemic. In one of the entries from January 26, 2020, Dr. Fauci is actually talking about where the virus came from. And he wrote, quote, "We know the market in Wuhan was not the source, it was the amplifier. Having said that, somewhere the virus jumped from animals to humans." Now, the journal also covers his evolving relationship with President Trump. At some points, he writes about the conversations that he has with the president telling him that he loves him, he understands him, he knows he's very famous. At other points, Dr. Fauci says that the president is angry at him for, quote, undermining him when he's trying to reopen the economy and get the country restarted. So they had a pretty contentious relationship that is really detailed in this journal. Dr. Fauci also logged the media that he did. He wrote down every time he did a TV appearance. He also kept some positive press clippings and some negative ones as well. But he really monitored how often he was in the media and how he was being portrayed. At one point, he wrote, "It is not hyperbole to say that today I am the most famous and talked about person in the country." Now, during his investigation, Senator Paul has asserted that Dr. Fauci was part of some cover-up to deny the possibility that coronavirus was leaked from a lab in China. Now, Dr. Fauci has denied that he's been part of any cover-up, but still he's going to appear before a Senate hearing on Wednesday about this very issue. So Dr. Fauci's diary was released this
Senator Blumenthal was right. It was one of the darkest days in our Senate's history. Anthony Fauci helped save millions of lives with his work on HIV medications. He expanded his life-saving reach to Africa with the support of George W. Bush by creating a President's Emergency Fund to support AIDS treatment in Africa that saved over 25 million lives before Elon Musk and Donald Trump decided that those lives were not worth saving. Not one Republican congressional committee, not one Republican senator is investigating how many thousands of people have died because Donald Trump and Elon Musk took their life-saving HIV medicine away. Not one Republican congressional committee is investigating how many babies have starved to death because Elon Musk decided to let food supplies that had already been delivered to Africa rot in warehouses instead of distributing that food to starving people. That is the Republican contribution to public health in today's world. And not one Republican senator has ever objected to taking that food assistance away from starving children and starving mothers and starving grandmothers and taking life-saving medicine away from people who cannot get that life-saving medicine any other way. The life-saving medicine that Dr. Anthony Fauci helped them get. There is no higher calling than saving lives. There is nothing we could ever do more important than saving a single life. And most of us will never know that feeling of saving a life. And all of us owe our gratitude to Anthony Fauci, and many of us may owe our lives to Anthony Fauci. And Anthony Fauci owes nothing to Republicans in the United States Senate. He does not owe them an answer to a single question. He's already answered every one of the questions that they were throwing around that room today. He's answered them many times in congressional testimony and in other interviews. Every one of them, every one of those questions, he's answered in previous appearances. Sometimes news stories come down to a very simple right and wrong, and this is one of them. Anthony Fauci is right, and every one of those Republican senators is very, very wrong.
Here we go playing the sides thing. You know, he brought up past accomplishments, and although those past accomplishments are applaudable, for a lack of a better word, that doesn't absolve him from accountability for things that were said in the diary that he didn't act on publicly. But again, even with me saying that, I'm not even saying that all the blame is on Fauci, on Dr. Fauci, excuse me. Although he was at the head of again the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease. I didn't mention that earlier, but that's what he was spearheading at the time. Although he was, you know, the top advisor when it came to health related issues in this country, I can't put all the blame on him. There's other moving parts, right? He can only make suggestions. The local government, the states, they determine whether or not the things that he advised would be put into action in those respective states. Obviously, with him being at the forefront of this all during that time, during COVID, they're going to lean heavily on his advice. So I understand that also. So which brings it right back full circle to him. Now, because he had other accomplishments that he just mentioned, in terms of HIV, the HIV outbreak, and other things. Because he did those things, on one hand, those things are applaudable, but that doesn't mean that overall, towards the end of his career, he didn't do things that were questionable. We can't just look at one aspect of a person's life and say, they're great, everyone else is wrong. It doesn't work that way. Everything matters. And in this case, I think it is valid to ask these questions about his accountability and the things that he knew that he didn't disclose to the public, and his hand in a lot of decisions that were made in this country during COVID. But is he to blame for everything? Absolutely not. And I agree with some people that I see in the comment section who are like, this is, they're putting all this attention, meaning the Republican Party, they're putting all this attention on Dr. Fauci, but they didn't put this much attention on the Epstein files. I agree with I agree with people that say that. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's all about people in power playing games with those who don't have power, like the 9-to-5ers and many of us out there. That's what it comes down to. They're going to make what's important to them important. Not so much what the people care about. The people are still very much concerned about the Epstein files. Maybe not everyone, maybe not those of you that's watching this episode, maybe you're not that interested in the Epstein files, but I'm interested in it, especially after certain names that I follow popped up in it. I was interested. But for some reason, it came, it went, it comes up from time to time, but it's not addressed it's not addressed with a microscope the way Dr. Fauci right now is addressed. And again, I'm not saying Dr. Fauci is perfect. What I am saying, and I'll continue saying throughout this episode, is that I don't put my trust in either the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. When I was younger and I really didn't care about politics, and I still really do not care that much about politics, I lean more towards the Democratic Party because of my household. But as time moved on, I realized, they could be just as shady as the quote-unquote Republicans are shady. I don't trust either side. That's my stance on it, if you were wondering what my stance is on all this. I don't trust either side. Now, this is Dr. Fauci this is from PBS. You can see right here, June 2021, when I guess he was going door to door, promoting the vaccine. All right.
America are not settled with the information that's been given to us right now. So I'm not going to be lining up taking a shot or a vaccination for something that wasn't clear in the first place. And then you all create a shot in miraculous time. It takes years to create vaccination.
Well, it used to take years.
Okay, it used to.
You know how many years were invested in this approach? About 20 years of science to get us to be able to do it.
20 years is not enough. And 9 months is definitely not enough for nobody to be taking no vaccination that you all came up with.
The only reason I'm talking to you right now, as close as we are, is that I've been vaccinated.
Right.
But if it allows thousands of people like you don't get vaccinated, you're going to let this virus continue to percolate in this country and in this world.
Something like the common flu then, right?
And not
it's
like
much
the common
more
flu.
serious than the flu.
Well, the flu kills a lot of people annually, too.
You know how many people died of the flu the last year? I mean, not this year, virtually none, but the previous year, about 20 to 30,000. You know how many people have died from COVID-19 in the United States? 600,000 Americans.
Well, the number that you all given that died, that's once again, that's you all's number.
You gonna pass?
Yeah, definitely. The people in America are not settled.
Listen, even the term COVID-19, listen, we the people, meaning those of you watching this episode that are not involved in politics and the government, those of you that are not filthy rich, we're at the disposal of those that are in power. Point blank, period. All right, whatever they feed us is what we have to either decide that it's the truth or it's something that needs to be investigated. And even if we investigate it, most of the time we're made to look like we're insane for going against what the government tells us is the truth. They called it COVID-19 because I believe there was 19 variants of the virus, and they told us that we needed to take a shot. Those of you watching this episode that didn't take a shot, I'm happy for you. I see there's people out there that's looking at this as like, you see, this is why we want to take a shot. Look, this man he's been subpoenaed in front of the committee, to speak on it, and he's pleading the fifth. I understand why you would take all of this as a victory, because you believe that you shouldn't have had to have taken the shot back during COVID. And I can understand why you feel that way. I myself, I had to take the shot. I had to take it 2 times, as a matter of fact. I had to take the Pfizer shot. During the time, if you remember, it was between Pfizer or Moderna. And then it got to the point where I think they were running low on Pfizer, so you were taking whatever you could get on your second shot. I don't know for certain. I think some people may have taken one thing for the first shot, and second time, depending if they ran out of the Pfizer, you had to take Moderna. I think if I'm not mistaken, both of my shots were Pfizer. But I also did that also because that was the requirement to even fly out of the country, and I still was trying to live a normal life during that time. And through travels, I had to take a shot, and the shot was the Pfizer shot. But again, there were people that were actively going against taking the shots, and I understand why they were actively going against the shots. But depending on where you worked, you had to take the shot. It was take the shot or have a job, and I was not in a position to make a decision of not taking the shot and be jobless during COVID. Could you imagine being jobless during COVID, and trying to find work, trying to find a job that didn't demand that you take the shot? And we're going to say demand because there really was no option. There was an option, but the option was no option, really. It was pretty much take the shot or lose your job. And I took both shots. I know people that had letters written. I think the only outs to all of that was to get a letter, a religious background letter saying that, it was against your religious beliefs. I know people that have tried to submit those letters, and it worked for like a couple days, if not a couple weeks, and then eventually those same people ended up taking the shot anyway, because it just got to the point where the employers were like, no, we're not going to have someone walking around, we're not going to be held liable for someone walking around our facility that didn't take the shot. Even if you wore the mask, we're not going to be liable for someone walking around with the mask and we know that they didn't take a shot, and if they get infected or something happens, we don't want to be liable for that. It was a horrible time. But again, it's the haves versus the have-nots. Those that make decisions versus those that have no control over the decisions made. And this is the way life is going to always play out. And what can we do about it? We can make an episode and speak about it. And hopefully I hear from those of you about your thoughts on Dr. Fauci, on your thoughts on the vaccine, on your thoughts on the conspiracy that, it was man-made. And it was just made so that, those in power, Dr. Fauci or whoever is associated with him could benefit off of it. And because Pfizer and Moderna definitely benefited from the vaccine. Why aren't we talking about Pfizer and Moderna? I may be speaking with not enough knowledge, but if Pfizer and Moderna at the time were the only ones that I know were supplying the vaccine, I'm pretty sure that Pfizer and Moderna did very well off of COVID. So is this just about Dr. Fauci, or is this about other things too?
My God, they're going to keep the outbreak smoldering in the country. It's so crazy. I mean, they're not doing it because they say they don't want to do it. They're Republicans. They don't like to be told what to do. Right. And we got to break that, unpack that.
How you guys doing with vaccines?
I'll tell you one thing, and this is just off the cuff. This whole episode is off the cuff. Again, I'm not an expert in politics, nor do I plan to ever be an expert in politics. I do think it's necessary to pay attention to politics only because it's going to affect you anyway. You could say, I don't like politics, but it's going to affect you because, again, it's those in power versus the little people. And decisions are being made daily that will ultimately affect you, meaning the little people, and I think you should be aware of it. But just looking at this video and the video before this, I just find it diabolical that the doctor who was on national news advising you of all the precautions to take finds it necessary, whether it's him or his advisors, found himself doing commercials to to go door to door to encourage people to take the vaccine. That's almost like, just on a low level, that's like your favorite sneaker brand. Let's just say Nike. The CEO of Nike going door to door and telling you how valuable it is to buy Nike sneakers. Now, I know it's a completely different avenue that we're talking about. We're talking about saving lives potentially in one's health. We're not talking about a hobby like wearing sneakers. But at what time would you ever see someone who's in charge, a CEO, administrator, going door to door and wrapping themselves up in politics? This is a political move, with him actually being at the forefront of these commercials. This does not look good in Dr. Fauci's favor, in my humble opinion. And again, this episode is not about me saying he's wrong and the Republicans are right. I think both sides are shady. I don't trust either side. I'm gonna make that very clear as I continue to go along in this episode. I don't trust either side.
I haven't tried it yet. I'm waiting for them to be able to. Oh, you should get it first. Okay, that way you won't give it to them.
I thought I would give it to them if I get it.
No, not at all. In fact, we got to get you vaccinated so that if you were to get infected, you could pass it on to them. So you're actually protecting your family by getting it vaccinated.
And please let me know in the comment section why doctor, scientists, what have you, why would they need to go door to door in a commercial to promote it? Why is that necessary? Why is that necessary?
Tell me y'all seen that Senate committee hearing involving Dr. Anthony Fauci. I hope y'all seen that, because it exposes a lot. Dr. Anthony Fauci told the whole world that he pleads the fifth 111 times. Now you might say, well, what's wrong with that? He got every right to plead the fifth. The issue is that he also said 4 years earlier he had no issue speaking at a Senate committee hearing to be transparent and let everybody know where the taxpayer dollars are going to and what's really happening. Instead, he chose to do the opposite. And what did the Democrats do? Oh, they don't got shit to say about him invoking his Fifth Amendment 111 times because they're behind him. Remember, he is Democratic leaning. Remember, he did tell everybody we need to shut down schools. We need to shut down public spaces. Don't go see your family for Christmas and Thanksgiving. Remember, he told the whole world, social distancing, stay 6 feet apart, wear masks. And then when Marjorie Taylor Greene asked him, was any of that backed by science? He said, no. Let me repeat that. Dr. Anthony Fauci told Marjorie Taylor Greene that when he told the world to wear masks, when he was mandating that you stay 6 feet apart, close down schools and public buildings, it was no science behind that. He was just making that shit up as he go along. So then it made me wonder, why didn't the Democrats say anything? Why weren't they speaking out? Why were they silencing people for dissent that they consider misinformation, removing people off social media sites? Why was that? And y'all wonder why people voted for Trump. Because you can't sit here as the Democratic Party and say that you're holier than thou and then continue to do the same, if not worse, than the Republican Party. Please tell me y'all seen it.
I'm sorry. He makes sense. And again, I'm not for either party. I'm for whatever makes sense during that particular election year. That's what I'm for. And that could go for either party. And even when I make a decision based on what makes sense for that particular year, I still don't trust either party. I know it sounds like a contradiction, but that's the life that I've chosen for myself, living under the sun in this country.
This monster who was pardoned by Joe Biden thinks he can just sit there in front of all of us and plead the Fifth Amendment, right?
Aw, sweetie, are you mad because Dr. Fauci pleaded the Fifth during his Senate hearing? Just a reminder for anyone out there who thinks that Dr. Fauci must be guilty of something because he invoked his Fifth Amendment right 111 times during his Senate hearing, that your logic also applies to Donald Trump. In fact, according to your logic, Donald Trump is 4 times as guilty as Fauci because Trump invoked the Fifth Amendment 450 times. In 450 instances, Trump declined to answer questions during his deposition by the state of New York in his case for fraud. You see, it's very easy to claim that invoking the Fifth is a right when it's someone you like who's being questioned, but it's an indication of guilt when it's someone you dislike. Fauci refused to answer for a very simple reason. He is convinced that Senator Rand Paul is going to do whatever is necessary to prosecute him. And while Dr. Fauci is protected by the Biden pardon, that pardon only works for conduct up until the moment of the pardon. And so the idea might be to have Fauci testify under oath and find some contradiction of some inane detail that would allow the committee to pursue perjury charges. And that is an entirely believable plan, in my opinion, which is why Josh Hawley asked stupid questions like, what color is your tie? Not because the tie mattered, and not only to vilify someone's right to decline to answer, to convince people like you that invoking one's right is an admission of guilt, but because getting Fauci to answer even one question could open the door to gotcha questions. To say that Fauci's refusal to answer is proof that all of the unfounded conspiracy theory accusations are real proves not only that people don't understand how the Fifth Amendment works, but that a portion of America is looking for a scapegoat and not for justice. 111 times, 450 times. Implicit admission of guilt, smart legal strategy. People, you gotta pick a lane.
And those are facts. A lot of the stuff that I have queued up is going to seem like a contradiction, but it's all fair play. Those were the rules that were implemented in our rights. You can plead the Fifth, and it's supposed to not count as an admission to guilt. But clearly, depending on who's on the stand, if you plead the Fifth, you're guilty. You know?
Vax was very, very bad. It wasn't a vaccine. It was some kind of weird gene therapy. And it was tested on the entire population of the West. And the guy at the very top of that command structure, again, Tony Fauci, who's 85 now, was he punished? Oh, no. He famously got a blanket pardon. He wasn't even charged with anything, but Joe Biden, as one of his last acts as president, gave him a pardon for crimes he might be charged with. That tells you a lot. And he went back to Washington, where he spent his entire adult life as one of the highest paid federal employees, to enjoy his sort of retirement. He got some kind of sinecure at Georgetown. He's just a CIA cutout posing as a university. And he got lifetime Secret Service protection, free federal bodyguards that you pay for. Do you have those? No. And he can be seen every day walking through Glover Archibald Park in Northwest DC, one of the prettiest urban centers in the world, with his bodyguards that you pay for. So how is that justice? He clearly knew that this wasn't a natural virus. It clearly knew, now we know he knew that it came from the Wuhan lab. He lied about that. He lied about the efficacy of the COVID shots. He lied about so much. So when does he get punished for what he did? Since so many people who did nothing wrong have been punished. Why are the wicked being treated like the righteous? COVID vax was very, very bad. It wasn't a vaccine. It was some kind of weird gene therapy.
This is hilarious. Wicked versus the righteous. Who's the righteous? And although he made some great points, and I'm not here to defend Dr. Fauci. There clearly are some questionable things that are worthy of imprisonment. But to say righteous, who's the righteous in this? I don't trust anyone in politics. Again, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, I don't trust either side. It just comes down to the making choices. What's that saying? The lesser of the two evils, or something along those lines. It just comes down to that for me, in all honesty. It's either I take the lesser of the two evils, or I just don't participate at all. And there's been some elections I didn't even participate in. And the only reason why I participated in them is out of the awareness of the sacrifices that were made by those before me who lost their lives for the right to vote. And when we finally received the right to vote, for that reason, I exercised that right. But choices. What choices that we have to make? I'm not going to finish what he has to say. I'm going to move on because this is a very lengthy video. I just want to get through these last three.
The most about that congressional hearing with Dr. Fauci? He wasn't even in charge of that COVID task force. It was these two idiots. Y'all want someone to blame? Look within. Shit, y'all were in charge. You think people forgot? You know what fries me the most?
Go back to that video and pause it so you can see the two faces. This is what I'm trying to say. It's like smoke and mirrors. Let me see. I'm going to end with this gentleman.
But, man, nobody cares that Dr. Fauci had a diary where he thought he was famous. I really don't care about that. I don't care about you guys grilling him because he told you to wear a mask and you disagreed, and somehow you think that's some type of oversight or threat to the public, and it wasn't. Like, no one cares about Fauci from 2020. No one gives a fuck. And the fact that they're even trying to do this and indict him and throw him in jail for his entire life, like, it's completely, like, no one cares about this stuff, bro. No one cares about this. You want to know a topic that people cared about? The Epstein files. Not giving all our money to Israel. Not getting us into a war. Actually fixing the economy. Grocery prices. Bringing down inflation. That's what people care about. Not Dr. Fauci. Republicans are so out of tune with their voters and out of tune with the average American is insane right now. Like, no one's watching that shit on C-SPAN, bro. Nobody cares. And it's funny just watching the hearing and seeing how dramatic they're making it. Like no one fucking cares. Like, no one cares about this stuff. And they're out here saying, how dare you cheat the American people? As if, like, Fauci put a big one on us or something. He really didn't, bro. Mind you that Donald Trump has the biggest crypto scam going on with his own, like, cryptocurrency, by the way, where he's made the most amount of money of any presidential administration in stocks or, in this case, crypto. Like, we do not care about Dr. Fauci, bro. Stop. Keep it a buck, man. Nobody cares that Dr. Fauci had a...
So listen, I'm not going to say nobody cares. That would be ignorant to say that because those of you that lost loved ones during that time, you want answers. You definitely, most certainly want answers. No one in close proximity to me lost their lives during COVID, but I wouldn't be disrespectful in saying no one cares. Because there were a lot of lives that were lost during that time. And I'm sure the families of those that passed away during COVID want answers about everything, about how true it is that it was a true outbreak, about the inception of that virus, the inception of the outbreak, where it started from. I know during COVID they were saying it started in China, and I know many people want to know answers about the actual vaccine. Was it in fact a counter to the virus, or was it just made up? Was it a placebo, or was it actually a genuine vaccine? What are the after effects of that vaccine? I know I want the answer to that personally because I took it twice. Like I mentioned, I took 2 Pfizers, and it's because I wanted to keep my job. But we do have questions about the whole COVID-19 outbreak. We do have some questions about Dr. Fauci, but I agree with this gentleman too. Though on the other hand, we do have questions about the Epstein files. We do have questions about gas prices and all those other things that affect us right now, the here and now. I know this is a political move. From an outsider looking in, the Republicans want to make a spectacle out of Fauci and his ties to the Democratic Party, so they're making it political. But I don't trust either side. That's where I'm going to leave with this. What is your thoughts on all of this? I'm not going to stretch this out any further than it needs to be. What is your thoughts on all of this? On every part of it, or even just some parts of it. What is your thoughts? This is called American Scandal. This episode was American Scandal for good reason. I believe scandal is the fabric of this country. And I say that whilst also being a proud American, because I do know other places we don't have the other places don't have the freedoms and liberties that we have. So I know it's the irony in having an episode like this, but it is a true and honest episode to have as a American citizen. What's your thoughts? As always, I appreciate everyone for tuning in. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Tell a friend to tell a friend. I drop episodes daily at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And as always, stay honorable.